What's going on, you guys? Today I want to make a video talking about my credit score and how by the age of 25, technically by the age of 24, how I was able to get over an 800 credit score today in modern America. And it's a lot more doable than you think. It's actually not that crazy of a process. You just have to, it does take some discipline for sure. But there were two main vehicles I used for getting my credit score up to the number you see on screen. It is currently sitting at 813 is my FICO. And the other ones, if you go through TransUnion and so the two other agencies as well. I mean, this is under Experian, but you got TransUnion and then Equifax. They're all pretty much in that range, around 800. This one's 813. But essentially, the two vehicles I used for getting my credit score up to this level already is one, I had a car loan, and then two, I have three different credit cards, thinking about getting a fourth. And I know that might seem crazy to a lot of you guys, but credit cards are actually a really good tool, but I'll get back to that in a moment. But essentially, I wanted to break down essentially what your credit score is graded on, and then explain how I got it to that level. So initially, I got my credit started, I believe, at the age of 17. I bought a car, a 2006 Lexus GS300, actually. And this is kind of like a luxury sports car V6. You know, it was a nice car, but it was on the older side. But I paid $8,000 for it, and I paid $4,000 in cash, and I got a loan from my local bank for the other $4,000. And my dad co-signed so that I could get that loan. And I paid the entire thing. I paid it. It was a 3-year loan. I paid it in a year and a half, so I paid double payments on it. And that's essentially what started my credit history. And so the first segment of my credit report is payment history, and that's 35% of my score. And it basically goes off of how many late payments you've had in the last 30 days, in the last 60 days, if you had any collections, any derogatory public records, and then it tracks if your accounts have always been paid as agreed, and that's sitting at 100%. So I've had 0 late payments ever. I've never had a late payment. I've never had any collections. I've never had any derogatory public records or anything like that. I've never had any delinquent accounts. So my payment history score is 35% of my overall score, and that has graded out perfectly. I have an exceptional rating. So that would be the number one reason why my credit score is where it's at. The reason why I bringing up the loan a while ago is because that's going to tie into the length of credit history, which is actually my worst score, but I'll get back to that in a moment. But then my next segment is amount of debt. Amount of debt is 30% of the score. And what people don't really think about is when they get credit cards, they add up between credit cards what your total amount of potential debt is that you can take out. So if I have a credit card that's $7,000 and another that's $3,000, that means I have a total credit line of $10,000 plus, whatever else you might have outside of credit cards. But no one really thinks about this, but the more credit you take up, actually, the more it hurts your score. You want to have some debt at all times. I use it for paying bills and groceries and things like that. But if you start to get towards your credit limit max, it's actually going to start dinging your credit score itself. So I have a revolving utilization of 9%. I'm taking up 9% of my total available credit right now. I have 2 credit cards with a balance and one that I don't use very often. And then I have a total revolving amount of debt of $1,759, so $1,759. So that's just to give you an idea. I use probably at any given time, I'm probably averaging around 10% of my debt utilization from week to week, month to month, things like that. So that always keeps my amount of debt in a very good, you'd say, category, very good score. So my payment history is exceptional. My amount of debt is very good. I'll get back to credit history in a moment. Amount of new credit is also exceptional. So if you take out, I believe, like newer lines of credit, you will start to get dinged for your credit score as well. And that's also with inquiries. So the fact that I'm thinking about getting a new credit card, inquiries for that credit card, looking at my credit history, will ding it. And taking out a new credit card will initially give you a temporary hit before it starts to benefit you again. So that's something you kind of always have to take on the chin whenever, applying for a new credit card. But so my amount of new credit is exceptional. And basically the age of my most recent opened account is 2 years and 11 months. So I'm going on 3 years here since I opened my latest credit card. You'd say my most recent credit card or line of credit. So, and I've had zero recent inquiries, because I'm not looking at applying for a new credit card. Now, that might come up here in the future. I got to think about that. I got to think about what cards I want. Generally speaking, I've been going after cards with zero expense fees, because I just don't like the idea of having a credit card in my wallet and having to pay a yearly fee for it. So we'll see what happens there. But my amount of new credit is exceptional because I haven't applied for anything or gotten anything new in the past 3 years. And also my credit mix is very good, and that's because I've combined, like I mentioned, that loan for my car. I combine that with the credit cards, and you get a credit bump if you have different forms of credit or debt that you take out. So if you're strictly credit cards or strictly on one credit card, even worse, your credit mix is going to be much worse. I have 3 different credit cards, and I have a history of paying off a car loan. And I didn't actually apply it to my credit history. I don't know if it would be possible, but I've paid rent too and things like that. I've never missed a rent payment. So if that's linked to my credit here somewhere, I'll have to actually dig in more into that. But I've had a good mix of lines of credit that I've utilized for debt and paying that stuff off. So that also gave me a very good credit mix score. Now, my lowest score is length of credit history, and that's only rated as fair, which is 15% of my score. And that's because, I got my loan about 7 years ago, age of oldest account, just over 7 years ago. And that's just not seen as a very high, amount of time to have credit. It probably won't look that good until I'm in 20, 30 years, of having credit history. So me just being super young, that length of credit history is just going to remain till fair until, significantly later down the line. But I think overall, my history has been pretty damn good for how young I've been. And it's been because of the 2 main things. I got a car loan early, paid it off in twice the amount of time, and I've used credit cards. And I've paid credit cards off every time, on time, in full. And it really boosts your credit score. It really does. So if you guys are ever thinking about utilizing credit cards, you need to be disciplined. Don't get into the credit card game if you know yourself and you know you're not disciplined, and you'll fall behind on payments and you'll procrastinate and you won't prioritize them. Credit cards are not something to screw around with. They are extremely powerful tool if you're disciplined and responsible and keep on it and just put that auto pay on, man. Always make sure you have got like $5,000 in the bank and have all your credit cards paying off in full on time, so that way you're not incurring any interest, and it will blow up your credit score, and you will get some cash back. You will get money back. I get 3% back at every gas pump, I utilize, and that's because one of my credit cards gives that in perpetuity, basically forever. It's a permanent benefit of the card. So I get 3% on that. I get another one that I think might be 3% in any restaurant I eat at, things like that. So credit cards are definitely a very useful tool. I could probably make a whole separate video talking about all the different ways it's benefited me and what different cards I utilize and things like that. But I just want to make this quick video talking about how at 25, how I have an 813 credit score, and it's been going really well. And this impacts every aspect of your life, man. If you want a house with a better interest rate, they're going to look at your credit score. A lot of times if you want to get a job, they look up your credit score. Especially, apparently if you're working in federal government, they will do a credit audit on you to see. Because, if you look at somebody who has a bad credit score, they're probably in a lot of financial trouble, and therefore they might be, prone to being probed by foreign governments and things like that, and bribes and whatnot. So they want people that, are financially stable, have good credit history. Everyone looks at the score. As much as we might love it or hate it, this score is becoming, and has kind of been, kind of like your lifeline in the United States, definitely when it comes to buying a house or getting a loan for really anything. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I didn't want to make this too long. I just want to break down my credit history and kind of explain my history with taking out lines of credit and how that's benefited me. But leave a comment down below of maybe what your credit scores are, what you have done, anything that you've done to, benefit you in any significant way when it comes to your credit history. I'd be really curious to hear about all those things. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.